Star Wars Outlaws has finally been released, and despite it being a bit of a departure from my regular content, I really wanted to talk about it because I'm a big fan of Star Wars and I'm a massive fan of Ubisoft games, and I think that this is going to be on a lot of people's radars, so I really wanted to give my opinion and feedback about this game. I want to say a massive thank you to my loves over at Ubisoft for providing me a copy of the game to review for you all. I feel very privileged every time I'm asked to work with them, so thank you so much. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Star Wars Outlaws follows Vess, a scoundrel that resembles a popular gun-slinging fave Han Solo, as she navigates the seedy underworld of the galaxy, all while the Galactic Empire's eyes are focused on those pesky rebels. This is a time of upheaval, and the crime syndicates who are running the shady underbelly of the Outer Rim are vying for power. I've played about 4 hours of the game, and they say that the main story takes about 25 to 30 hours to complete, which for this kind of game is relatively short, comparable to games such as Assassin's Creed Mirage, which as I understand it was originally meant to be an Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC, but they ended up wanting to flesh it out to give Basim the attention that he deserved. Either way, I'm definitely still finding my footing in the game, so I wanted to be upfront about that with how I discuss my findings. I think the biggest pull of the game for me is just getting to explore the Star Wars universe, and I think that's something that Ubisoft does really well. They create fantastic, beautiful, detailed landscapes to traverse and interact with. Something that I've really enjoyed in their previous games is just walking around and seeing what I find. And I think in the areas that I've gotten to do that in, I've really felt that the game has a level of detail and care that really honors the IP that it's using. The art is really wonderfully created. Everything feels very real and lived in. I also think that the cinematic cutscenes are just otherworldly beautiful. The other soft cutscenes they do, where they're clearly using playable character graphics, are a little bit more rough. Just thinking about Kay's hair in particular, especially in comparison to the other characters that are around her in scenes. She just looks very fizzy at times, but I am playing an early version of the game, so I can give it a little bit of a pass right now. And I think as you can see here, the game just overall looks phenomenal. Gameplay wise, I really like the speeder controls. I'm playing with a keyboard and mouse, and I feel like I was moving the bike around in a way that felt quite real. To compare it to another Ubisoft game, when I played Skull and Bones, the boats, when they turned, had no resistance, and it made the game feel like, well, a game. I didn't feel real at all. It took me completely out of the setting. So this was a really nice touch, definitely something that I was expecting from the game, but it is nice that it happened. I've seen some of my friends play this game and have seen them fly off their speeder, hitting a wall, and have had a little bit of a hard time controlling the speeder, and they have said that they haven't really enjoyed the controls themselves, and to them I say, get good. I'm really bad at games and I had no problem with it, so it might be time to look within. I can only speak for keyboard and mouse. I know a lot of people prefer to play with the controller, so definitely a little bit more research to be done there. I'm also really enjoying being an absolute menace with the Icaros or Senu of this game, Nyx, who assists us with combat, pickpocketing, and unlocking pathways throughout the game. Nyx is just heartbreakingly cute. Every time he's on screen, I'm having a blast. He has these little cat-like characteristics about him, and I just flippin' love cats, so I, of course, love Nyx. An unexpected plus for me has really been the accessibility in the game. There are a lot of options at the beginning of playing the game where you could customize a bunch of different things, but it really went over my head when I was kind of clicking through the main menus, and I didn't give it much of a look myself besides making sure that subtitles were on. But once I started playing and interacting with the world, I noticed that when you start walking through populated areas, there's actually a little visual aid for where talking is coming from, kind of similar to Fortnite's visual wheel for seeing footsteps, gunfire, cars, etc. I really can't overstate how nice this feature is. It's the sort of feature that you might not think twice about if you don't really need it, but for me, I do really find that feature to be quite helpful, and it made me walk closer to characters so that I could hear their conversations better, like being in one of those virtual hangouts. I have two relatively small critiques, and the first, and this is really an issue that I have with a lot of Star Wars media if I'm being completely honest, but I felt it was particularly bad in this game for me. The intro is so chock full of information that it is extremely difficult to follow. You kind of need to take a pause, take a breath, think back on all the information that you've been giving so that you can move on and keep going. I often go into Star Wars media and go, Okay, somehow I feel like I don't know a single thing about this series, despite being a massive fan and watch the movies every year and have enjoyed many of the shows and games. But it's only really a small critique from me because ultimately it's consistent with my experience with the rest of the IP. And obviously the intro isn't the whole game. So once you get past that intro, you very quickly are able to understand what you're actually meant to be doing in the world that you've jumped into. So it's not really a detriment to the overall experience in my opinion, but it's definitely something to think about. And secondly, the game leans pretty heavily on stealth combat, being one of the only ways to get through locations where you have a poor standing with the inhabitants. I wish that there was a way to be more charismatic as a way to get out of uncomfortable situations, but in Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or other similar open world Ubisoft games, they definitely lean more to catering to stealthy and tactical gameplay rather than guns blazing or talking your way out of situations. So it's totally fair enough that they lent on a formula that already works for them. It's a style of gameplay that you enjoy. I think you will really like this game. So again, it's not really a critique, it's just a personal preference. I would love to, be the Riz master, rizzing through the game and talking my way out of situations. But alas, I must be stealthy, for which I'm very bad at. Overall, I'm excited to keep playing this game, especially right now while I've got a little bit of time now that we're kind of in the moving process and after we've finished moving, I'm just going to be playing this game, I feel. I do feel quite a draw to playing this game in a sense, which I think is a good feeling to have. It's also a good sign that I am enjoying it in some capacity outside of what I have already played. So I would love to know if you've picked up the game, if you're planning to pick up the game, because I do think that it is something worth playing. I do think that it is worth the money at this stage. And specifically from, having played a lot of Ubisoft games on release, I'd say that this one is in particularly good condition. It runs really well. And if Star Wars is an IP that you're interested in, I really can't see any reason why you shouldn't be picking up this game, just to be frank. That is all for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me have a little indulgent chat about Star Wars Outlaws. I'm really excited about this game and I really wanted to talk about it on this channel despite it being quite different from the rest of my videos. A kind of a throwback to what I used to talk about on this channel, but let me know if you're picking up the game. Let me know if Nyx is your favorite character because obviously it's mine. And I will see you all next time.